What's up, everybody? It is Carlton Flowers here, your crypto pro.
Yay!
And tonight, or this morning, however you want to call it, it's 12:47 a.m. on September the 29th. We have a very special video treat for you. We're going to look at Bitcoin and provide some analysis, and I'm going to update you on what I see from the chart. And in this special video, we are going to look at this fella that has been circulating on YouTube, whose channel is called Market Makers. And you may or may not have heard about him, but I'm sure you've probably heard about the Gartley Pattern guy, the guy who makes the Gartley patterns. And you've got like the Bearish Gartley, the Bullish Gartley, the Bat, the Black Swan, and the Elephant, the Hippopotamus, and all these different patterns that he's got these crazy different names for. So I thought, well, after watching the video tonight, I would break down the chart and just see how valid this is. So I'm going to give you my unbiased opinion of what's going on with this crazy bat thing or whatever, butterflies and bats and dragons. And then we'll just look at my own personal analysis and see if it lines up. And I'll tell you right off the bat, I do enjoy his videos. I'll watch them. And there are people in my group, some people think that he's garbage. Some people think that he's got good info. I'm neutral. So we'll just look at the last one and I'll share with you what I have done here on the one-day chart of Bitcoin. I've reproduced the critical points that he has in his last video, which I'll give you the link in the description so you can go watch his video. And so what he has done here is constructed this pattern, and what it makes, I'll just put it on here. It's an ABCDE pattern, really, is what it is. So I'm going to draw it out for you. There's your A. Here's your B, here's your C, and then the D. A, B, C, D, not an E. So when you look at this pattern that he's making, this is what he's calling the Gartley pattern. Some people call it different things. And I can't remember if he calls this a bearish bat, a bullish butterfly, whatever it's called. This is the pattern. So let's see if we can make some sense out of this. But first of all, we're going to discuss a few things that he had mentioned on the video. So he says that this is the daily bat, I guess, on the one-day chart. And he's talking about a target price for Bitcoin to fall to 31,546, which is right here. Okay. And so what we want to do is see if we can validate this or invalidate it. And he also has a critical point. There's a line here. This line right here is critical that he has on his bat, butterfly, elephant, hippopotamus pattern. So whatever that is, this is the critical line. And here we are price-wise here. There's our current candle. So what I can ascertain from this chart, it kind of looks like 42,445 would be the point at which we would not be able to cross. Otherwise, this bat thing or whatever you call it would be invalidated. Okay, so let's zoom in on this on the one-day chart. Let's get rid of the colorations there. And then we'll be able to see we have this critical point that ends right here that touches this line at like roughly 45,004 something, 500. We'll just say 500. And he is basing this action from this low point that happened back in June when we hit 28,000. And then he connects it to this high point up here at the 52,000. And then for whatever reason, we draw a line through this action, but we connect it to this second high point. I don't know why. I don't know why this couldn't be the B, but some people say that from the ABCD pattern, A, B, C, D, E, or either starting point A, B, C, D, that to get this action here, you have to have an A, B, C, D, E, or a three-wave inside of that. If you watch Alessio Rastani, he'll say you have to have a dip, which is 1, a rise, which is 2, a dip, which is 3, and then a rise up, which would get you to the B or C point, depending on how you number it. So maybe that's why he has this point. That's my only explanation for why we would not draw the line. I wouldn't have known to draw this line through this top peak here and come way out like that. So we'll just see. So this is the line of demarcation. We can't cross this line, or what he's saying is going to be invalidated. Now, we did have a wick here that went through it, but we'll just say for rule's sake, we can't have a candle close above this line or it's invalid. And as I said, right now, Bitcoin is at 42,255, and we would have to be somewhere at the level of 42,500 or 600-ish and break above that. In other words, if we break above 42,600-ish, which would be right here, then I'm going to start scratching my head. And maybe if it only breaks out a little bit and then jumps right back down, maybe it'll still be valid. Much better. But if we do break far beyond this, then I'm going to say nonsense. In fact, if we go for this volume node right here, which just happens to be at 43,506, I don't know. It's going to get kind of shaky because that is a possibility right now that we hit that point. Here's why. Let's clear this out. From this point, we are in a bearish facing stochastic, but in the middle of a green candle pump, which means that this candle here is going to change the direction of this stochastic possibly. It's going to round it out a little bit. And what we could see is the fast line curling up a little like that and maybe crossing over or maybe continuing back down. If it does what he's saying, then this stochastic should curl up and then bend back down. All right. We do see that there's a little bit of a flattening here on the fast line with the MACD oscillator, which is odd because they usually come after the action on these two oscillators from the stochastic. And it could be that this curling up here coincides with this action moving up here, which that's probably why we get this flattening point right there. All right, so we're going to need the stochastic to continue down into the oversold zone to validate this movement where we reject at this line and then we come all the way down to this target of his, let's see, what was he saying? Let me turn drawing mode off. He is saying on his chart that 31,546 is the target, which when we look on our chart, okay, there's some credence to that. It would be right below the thick of this volume node right here. And this is a pretty fat node. Usually price gets attracted to the points of these nodes. But this big block that ends here, okay, he's saying that the target would be at the bottom of this block. Where I would be more inclined to believe that if you've got price action moving with that kind of velocity downward, it's going to head right here to 29,000 because there's a volume node sticking out right there. We also would, I would be more inclined to believe that we would hit 29 because if we do drop below this support resistance zone right here, which happens to line up with this big fat volume node right here, that, my friends, would be at a price of around 32,000. And so if we blow through that, I don't see how we'll put the brakes on at 31,000. But he says that we'll hit this. And after that point, he's claiming that we'll move up, but that we'll create a lower high and then start to do this. That's what he's claiming. Okay, so let's jump to the one-day chart. Hang on. Get rid of my handsome face there. He claims that on the 1 hour chart that you can see a resistance on the 200 EMA. He says that the 200 right here, this line here, is going to be the resistance for the price action right now. In other words, if we extend this line out as it's doing this, he claims that this is where it bounces off, that that's the highest that it can go. Is that valid? Well, let's just look at the evidence and see if it is. So if we come out of this one right here, we continue to move up, which it looks like the stochastic is about peaked out right here, okay? So I don't know how much higher we can go, but it can. The stochastic can hang out there. So let's say, for instance, we jump up out of here and we go all the way to the 200. Let's look at the corresponding price. It's at this volume node right here at 43,263. Now let's look at what that high point, his line is 42,445 ish as the limit, and that 43 would be higher than what he's saying. And so if he's going to say that the 200 EMA is the line of demarcation, by the time we get there, there's not enough correction on that line to make it at 42,445. But 43 at this node is still a point that we could reverse. So that's somewhat valid. So let's say we make it up to this line. That could be a natural rejection point because we could bounce off of that volume node and head back to the point of control, or head all the way back down to, say, the bottom of this support resistance zone and test it again. If we test the bottom of this support and resistance zone too many more times, it's a goner. You know what I always say, and we've already done this. Here we go. It's once, twice, 3 times a lady. And after that point, it's going to be gone. Now, actually, we can call this 3 and 4, all right? Even though we had a double, we had a give back, and it snatched it right back up here. But we've touched the bottom of this support resistance 4 times. The 5th time, I think each time we touch it and come back down, we're lessening the chances of bouncing off of that line. So here with this 200, this is partially valid. I could kind of agree with that because the stochastic is just about peaked out. MACD is on the rise. You see this velocity here with divergent oscillators, and we're printing green bars. So that would agree with the fact that we could continue up on price. So I'll say so far so good and close to his line of demarcation there. Now let's go back to the 1 day, or let's move to the 4 hour. Let's just look at the 4 hour and see what my good sense tells me on the 4 hour, according to the VPVR, volume profile visible range. We'll scrunch in some history here on the price line so we can bring that in and see those nodes. According to these nodes right here and right now, where the price is, we do see the possibility that if price continues up right now, we get into the thick of this node right here. See the node there? It does still end here at about 43,000 and change. And after we drop out of that, we could go back down to test the bottom of this support resistance zone right here. See this area? And what I'm saying is that if we fail that bottom, we shoot down. Now, if we fail that bottom and we shoot down, let's say we come on back down and we're at the bottom of the support resistance zone with the previous action points, then here we go. We're probably going to head through this slip zone and go for this node or this node. Now let's see what the price levels are. We've got 39,000. So that's your highest probability. And then the second highest is this 38,000. And then let's scrunch in more price history so we can see where there is a node at his little 31 target. We'll move this down, move it down. And we do see a very large node down here. Here's the thick of it. It's right there. Okay, so let's get a price at the top. The peak of this node is at the top of this support resistance zone that I've already got on here where we had that previous action. So the top of it is 32,881, and the bottom of the zone that I have been, I've left sitting on here for quite some time is 32,136. So again, I don't see where this 31.5 is coming in because below that is the 29. See that node right there? So it's close. We don't agree. However, I would say that it's possible. I'm going to stick with the volume nodes because I have better luck following price action as it jumps, as it snaps to these volume nodes, okay? Now let's go back to the 1 day and then we're going to look at the 1 week to get the overall. So there's our little pattern there. We have it all scrunched in, nice and neatly packed here. Let's look at the nodes. All right, so if we come out of this, we head for this little package of volume here that has a peak here. And then the second possibility is here. The last possibility is here. And then worst case scenario would be on this one, which I don't see happening. There's another little one right there. Let's check the pricing of all those points. We have this node here at 34,000. And then we don't really see anything that puts the brakes on at this 31.5. But below that, we've got a node at 23,000. We have one at 19.7. We have one at 15, 16. And we've heard all these people talk about 14. I don't find that on this chart. And then this last one is at 11. And then if you got the big one at 7, that ain't happening. Okay, that's just not going to happen. Let's do this. Let's clear and let's get less in the visible range. Here we go. We'll do this. Let's take it from the point of beginning of this price rise here. All right, as this run of this bullish trend started from back in October of 2020. Now let's look at the nodes. Once again, we have a peak here. There's a probability. We have a peak here. There's a little one sticking out by itself. We've got this one and we have that one. Now let's check those prices. This one comes in at 27,000. There's the 29 that we were talking about just before. So this one pokes out at 22. All right. 23,000. I've heard a lot of talk about 23 and I've talked about 23. Then from there, there's your 19.7. And then below that, where's the peak? 14,000. All right, I stand corrected. So when we look at just this market cycle from the beginning of the trend, we do have a fat volume node at 14,000. That's where these people are getting 14,000 from. Not to say that it's going to happen. That's not what I'm trying to say. You know, we don't know what's going to happen. That's of least probability. I go with probabilities. Remember that. All right, now let's bring me back in here and let's jump to the 1 week and we're going to end on that note. So here's the 1 week chart and let's scrunch and zoom out. We're looking at from the beginning of the rise on. Let's take about right here. All right, so then we can see our peak nodes. Here's 47, which some people say we could jump up to. I think that's valid, and that would invalidate the Batman, Mr. Gartley Batman. And then we have the peak node right there, 34, around 34. Coming on down, there's one sticking out at 29, same ones we've been talking about. There's the 27-ish one. Here's your 23. Here's your 19. There's a 16. And there's a 13.7, so 14 is still possible. It's kind of in there. And on the 1 week chart, just to end this, looking at this right here, the stochastic is looking bearish and it looks like it's cycling down. So if we do a full cycle, that would lend to the possibility of going to those lower nodes. If we do something like this action where we dip down and come back up, dip down and come back up, where it's not ready to give up, you know, there's a possibility we might not dip down that far. If we do this one, we go to the borderline at the 20 line, hang around and come back up, or we don't really spend a lot of time in the oversold zone and it doesn't get terribly nasty, who knows? We could make some higher lows where, you know, price action could do something like this. And then we come up, you know, from a point here where we make a higher low and crawl out. So that's possible too. So that's all the evidence that I see. And I don't even remember what my projection was for the immediate. It was that 43. Okay, that's what we were talking about. So we'll look to see what happens. If you got some questions, post them below, and also post your opinion of the bearish Gartley Batman and his channel. Go watch his video if you'd like. It's interesting. And let me know if you think it's hogwash or if it's brilliance. If you think it's going to play out that way. And hey, we'll just watch the birdie and we'll discuss it on the next video as it plays out. Thanks for watching this, Carlton. I'm out.